Ever wondered how a city once called the Motor City ended up bankrupt? Detroit, USA went from the pinnacle of American industry to a symbol of urban decay. But how did it all unravel? In the mid-20th century, Detroit was the beating heart of the automobile world. Home to giants like Ford, GM, and Chrysler, jobs were plentiful, and the city boomed. But when the auto industry faced global competition and automation, thousands of jobs vanished. Add to that decades of racial tension, white flight, and poorly managed public services, and the cracks started to show. By 2013, Detroit made headlines as the largest U.S. city to file for bankruptcy, with a staggering $18 billion in debt. Entire neighborhoods became ghost towns, and abandoned houses lined the streets. The city's water crisis and crumbling infrastructure didn't help its image either. But Detroit isn't just a story of failure. From community gardens reclaiming empty lots to artists turning ruins into creative hubs, the resilience of its residents is undeniable. Billionaire Dan Gilbert's investments in downtown have sparked a revival, but the gap between wealthy enclaves and struggling neighborhoods remains vast. Detroit's dysfunction serves as a cautionary tale of what happens when industries collapse, leadership falters, and inequality festers. The Motor City may be on the road to recovery, but its journey is far from over. Will it drive itself back to prosperity or stall once again? Only time will tell. When most people think of Los Angeles, they picture glamour and palm-lined streets. Well, Los Angeles is also a city of gridlocked traffic, skyrocketing rents, and a homelessness crisis that's hard to miss. How did the City of Angels become so dysfunctional? For starters, LA's urban sprawl is legendary. With no clear center and a public transit system that barely scratches the surface, cars reign supreme. Some of the worst traffic in the country, with commuters losing hundreds of hours a year stuck on the 405. And then there's the housing nightmare. Because of restrictive zoning laws, NIMBY opposition, and years of underdevelopment, home prices have soared. Even middle-income families struggle to stay afloat, while the unhoused population has ballooned over 70,000. But wait, there's more. Wildfires, droughts, and smoggy skies regularly remind residents that living in paradise comes at a cost. Add in a city government bogged down by corruption scandals and sluggish reforms, and it's no wonder frustration runs high. Yet, like any blockbuster, LA has its moments of redemption. Grassroots organizations are pushing for affordable housing and transit expansions. Hollywood's glitz still brings in billions, and the tech industry has carved out its own shiny corner in Silicon Beach. The City of Angels may be a tangled mess of contradictions, but it's also a place of reinvention. Will LA's story be one of triumph or tragedy? Caracas isn't just a city, it's a cautionary tale. Once one of Latin America's wealthiest capitals, Venezuela's largest city is now synonymous with hyperinflation, power outages, and empty supermarket shelves. The chaos traces back to the country's over-reliance on oil. When prices were high, Caracas thrived, but when the market crashed, so did the economy. Instead of diversifying, leaders doubled down on oil profits, leading to disastrous consequences. Corruption and mismanagement drained public funds, and inflation skyrocketed to levels that made even basic necessities unaffordable. Crime became another brutal reality. Caracas consistently ranks among the world's most dangerous cities, with kidnappings and armed robberies a daily threat. Police presence often means more fear than reassurance, as corruption runs rampant within law enforcement. Then there's the infrastructure or lack thereof. Power outages plunge entire neighborhoods into darkness, hospitals operate without reliable electricity, and clean water is a luxury. For many, the only way out is to leave, contributing to one of the largest mass migrations in recent history. But even amid the dysfunction, resilience shines through. Community-led food programs, underground clinics, and artists transforming the city's walls into murals of defiance offer glimpses of hope. The people of Caracas refuse to be defined by their city's failures. Caracas is a city that has hit rock bottom. Whether it can rise from the rubble remains uncertain, but one thing is clear, its spirit is unbroken. Port-au-Prince is a city that knows disaster all too well. From political turmoil to devastating earthquakes, Haiti's capital has become a symbol of resilience, but also dysfunction. The 2010 earthquake was a catastrophe of unimaginable scale. Flattened buildings and crumbled infrastructure left hundreds of thousands dead and even more homeless. International aid poured in, but corruption and mismanagement meant much of it never reached those in need. The city's recovery has been painfully slow, with makeshift tents turning into permanent slums. But the dysfunction didn't start with the earthquake. Decades of political instability and weak governance have eroded public trust. Basic services like electricity, clean water, and healthcare are unreliable, forcing many to rely on informal networks just to survive. The streets of Port-au-Prince are often controlled by gangs who extort residents and clash with authorities in broad daylight. Yet, amid the chaos, life goes on. Vibrant street markets buzz with vendors, and the city's art scene remains defiant, using color and creativity as a form of protest. Community organizations step up where the government fails, offering support and hope. Port-au-Prince stands at the crossroads of survival and despair. While its people continue to endure, the question remains: will the world's aid and the nation's leadership ever match the resilience? For now, the city's fight is far from over. Ever wondered what it's like to live in a city where chaos is just part of the routine? Welcome to Kinshasa, the capital of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, a city of staggering contradictions. With over 17 million residents, Kinshasa is bursting at the seams. Yet, basic infrastructure is practically non-existent. Pothole-ridden roads, unreliable electricity, and mountains of uncollected trash define daily life. Even clean water is a luxury in many neighborhoods. And the traffic? Legendary. With few traffic lights and even fewer rules, the streets become a free-for-all where honking is a second language. Public transport is a patchwork of overcrowded minibuses and motorcycle taxis, making even a short commute an adventure. Corruption only worsens the chaos. Government funds meant for public services mysteriously vanish, while makeshift markets pop up on sidewalks and streets. Here, survival is an art form, and residents hustle to make ends meet. But amidst the dysfunction, Kinshasa's spirit thrives. Music and dance pulse through the city, with vibrant Rumba rhythms providing the soundtrack to daily life. Street artists paint the city's resilience onto crumbling walls, turning decay into expression. Kinshasa is unpredictable, relentless, and unapologetically alive. It's a city that demands toughness and its people deliver. The question is, how much longer can they endure before something finally gives? Suppose you wake up to the sound of blaring horns, the air thick with smog, and a sea of people flooding the streets. Welcome to Dhaka, Bangladesh, a city that never seems to stop, even when it probably should. With over 23 million people crammed into a dense urban sprawl, Dhaka is the definition of organized chaos. Traffic jams stretch for miles, turning a 20-minute drive into a multi-hour ordeal. Public transportation? Let's just say the rickety buses and overcrowded rickshaws are a test of patience and survival. Then, there's the pollution. The Buriganga River, once a lifeline, is now choked with industrial waste. Air quality levels frequently hit hazardous highs, forcing residents to breathe through masks on their daily commutes. But the dysfunction doesn't end there. Unplanned urban growth has resulted in endless slums, where basic sanitation and clean water remain distant dreams. Corruption and poor governance ensure that even well-meaning projects rarely see the light of day. And yet, Dhaka is undeniably alive. From vibrant street markets to rickshaw art that bursts with color, the city pulses with entrepreneurial spirit. The people here adapt, innovate, and hustle like no other. Dhaka's dysfunction is both its curse and its resilience. It's a city that tests your limits, but for those who endure, it often offers a lesson in unyielding determination. Picture a city where the echoes of war linger in the air, and survival is a daily triumph. Welcome to Kabul, Afghanistan, a city that has endured decades of conflict, corruption, and chaos. Once a cultural hub with bustling bazaars and historic landmarks, Kabul now bears the scars of endless battles. Bullet-riddled buildings stand as grim reminders of the past, while constant power outages plunge neighborhoods into darkness. Rebuilding efforts are slow, hindered by corruption that drains resources before they reach the people. Traffic in Kabul is a lawless dance of armored vehicles, rickshaws, and overcrowded buses. Potholes and makeshift barricades turn even the shortest commute into a gamble. Public services are unreliable at best, with access to clean water and healthcare remaining a luxury for many. Security concerns dominate daily life. Military checkpoints and heavily armed guards are commonplace, and the threat of violence looms large. Yet, amid the uncertainty, Kabul's people carry on. Markets still buzz with life, children play in the rubble, and tea houses offer a rare moment of respite. Resilience is woven into the city's fabric. Artists use murals to reclaim walls once marked by destruction, and underground schools provide education in defiance of fear. Kabul's story is far from over, but whether its future holds peace or further turmoil remains a question only time can answer. Ever wondered what it's like to live in a city that's literally sinking? Welcome to Jakarta, Indonesia, a metropolis where floods, traffic, and pollution are just part of the daily routine. Built on swampy ground and weighed down by relentless urbanization, Jakarta is sinking at an alarming rate. Some areas drop by as much as 10 inches a year. Combine that with rising sea levels, and you've got entire neighborhoods regularly submerged during the rainy season. But water isn't Jakarta's only problem. The city's notorious traffic jams are a masterclass in frustration. With over 30 million people in the greater metropolitan area and limited public transport options, commuters can spend hours stuck in gridlock. Even the much-anticipated MRT system barely makes a dent. And then there's the air. Thick with smog and exhaust fumes, Jakarta consistently ranks among the world's most polluted cities. Breathing clean air here is a luxury few can afford. Corruption and poor urban planning add fuel to the fire. Illegal construction worsens flooding, while drainage systems remain clogged and outdated. The government's bold plan to move the capital to Nusantara is underway, but for Jakarta's residents, relief is still a distant dream. Yet, Jakarta's spirit endures. From vibrant street food stalls to bustling markets, the city pulses with life. Communities band together to survive each flood and traffic jam, proving resilience is part of the city's DNA. Will Jakarta sink further, or will its people rise above the chaos? Only time will tell. Which city story surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know how cities can overcome these challenges together.